So when it came to running solo ops, I kept running into this issue where one build would lean too heavily into using abilities, while the next build would lean too heavily into the weapons, and then I couldn't kill the bosses fast enough. And then I just kind of needed an all-around survival build that could do precision kills, weapon kills, and ability kills, and swap between them. And so I eventually landed on this one using Starfire protocol. I'm going to talk about the build. I'm going to go over how I made it. So if you don't know how to build craft, I'm going to go into the basics of how to build craft and how to make a build your own. It kind of covers the build itself. I'm going to showcase a few things about the build, and then I'm going to run through a solo portal activity with the build to show it off. So if you already know how to build craft or you just want to get to the build, there's timestamps in the description and a link. But otherwise, we're just going to get right into it. When it comes to build crafting, there's kind of like a little mental checklist that most people have in mind from the start. So this is what we're going over with the build crafting checklist. The first step is what content are you building for? That's really like the basics of it. What specific reason do you want to make this build? The next is you want to take a look at your artifact. You don't have to build around the artifact, but like it's free, so you should probably build through the artifact. Lastly, you want to establish the core of your build. Sometimes you can do the core first. You can think of like you see an exotic that you want to use and you want to build around that, and then you figure the rest of this out. But it's usually good to start from the top, work your way down. Then you kind of do your subclass that kind of leads into the build core, and then you finalize and round out your build at the end. So the first step, what content is the build for? Here's a couple of examples. So your DPS build is going to be much different than your build that you're using for the conquest activities, which are locked to new items only, which are going to be different than your dungeons and your raid specific. So for this, we're looking directly at solo ops. So we know what we need to do. We need to have good weapons, we need to have good abilities, and we need survivability, and also precision kills. So I'm not just going to use, I feel like it's hard to get precision kills with something like Outbreak, because sometimes the nanites will do it. So that kind of leans into it as well. So now that we know what content we're building for, we need to take a look at our artifact. If you've seen the artifact this season, there's a lot of it is based around solar and radiant. And with that, we're going to base this around solar itself. Cover more of this when we get to the subclass part, but solar, especially on Warlock, is just an S tier subclass. It is huge for damage and survivability, and it is always strong. When the artifact leans into it, it just becomes stronger. So when you look at your build core, you think of an exotic armor piece and then a weapon or multiple weapons. They don't have to be exotic weapons, and usually you don't have to start. You can start with any of these. Today we're starting with the weapon itself, and the subclass kind of ties the two together. Sometimes they're all like a mismatch of multiple different things, but synergy makes a build strong. So first thing we're looking for is a weapon. So we want a solar weapon to lean into the artifact. We want it to be precise. It's hand cannon weak, so we'd prefer a hand cannon for arms weak. And then we want it to be good at ad clear. So not all weapons are based for ad clear. Like some of them, you might have like an attrition orbs, shoot to loot, or something along those lines, or something that just has demolitionist and pugilist on it. And that's not what we want. So there are multiple different types of primaries. Like I was just saying, there's ad clear ones, things with like one for all and incandescent, jolting feedback, explosive payload, those types of things. And then there's utility weapons that you could use for your primaries. That's like your shoot to loot and your attrition orbs. And then sometimes you might, like in really, really dire circumstances where the artifact doesn't have any flexibility on it, and you just, your loadout can't do it, you might just throw on a primary weapon for anti-champion. But we're looking specifically at ad clear for this. So the first thing that comes to mind is my Zali's Bane. So it's solar. It is 140s are awesome. It is very easy to like 1 or 2 tap red bars depending on the difficulty. It's got the hand cannon, and it is cracked at ad clear. So the next thing we're going to look at is our exotic armor for our build. So it needs to be a solar exotic armor piece, good at getting ability kills, and revolve around weapon kills. And 2 exotic armor pieces come to mind. The winner is Starfire Protocol, and the unfortunate loser is Sunbracers. I am such a huge Sunbracers fan, but for this build, we are not using Sunbracers, and that is for one specific reason with Starfire Protocol. It is that this line right here is that with, so it starts from the top. Fusion grenades have an additional charge and recharge from empowered weapon damage and empowered weapon final blows, granting more energy. Defeating targets with fusion grenades grant rift energy. So the big thing here, I should have underlined this too. This exotic revolves around getting kills and dealing damage with your weapon itself. Some bracers, it's really, really easy to get into a loop of snap, throw grenades, snap, throw grenades, snap, throw grenades, and you never want to shoot your weapon. This Starfire protocol, you have to use your weapons to lean into the build. And so that's why I think it pairs really nicely, and that's your subclass synergy. So now we've got our build content, our artifact, and our build core. We need the subclass to round things out. When it comes to the Solar Warlock subclass, it has a lot of strong verbs that help you do extra damage and stay alive. So you've got Radiant, which is going to get you 20% extra damage. Restoration is going to heal you, and your Scorch and Ignitions are going to do damage over time and cause big explosions. When you're running a Solar Warlock, I really just main Warlock. I don't play the other classes too much, but specifically on Solar Warlock, these are like the main 3 you should run on 90% of your builds. Like, you're not going to use this on Speaker Sight. Ember of Empyrean, your kills will extend your Radiant and your Restoration. Ember of Ashes will give you extra Scorch, and Ember of Torches will give you Radiant on your melee to yourself and your allies. So this is going to give yourself ally Scorch targets. This is going to almost guarantee that your melee, your Incinerator Snap is going to ignite targets, and then your Ember of Empyrean is going to extend your Radiant and other effects because of that snap kill. This is like the golden trifecta for Solar. Another fun thing about Solar Warlock is that you have a neat combination between Heat Rises and Phoenix Dive. You are one of like a few ways in the game to get Restoration ×2. This is mostly a Warlock thing, but Titans, I believe, have an exotic that let them do that too. But Restoration ×2 is 70 health per second. It is absolutely massive. It just keeps healing you. And this is very easy to do. You just consume your grenade, Phoenix Dive, you get Restoration ×2. So when we look at the subclass for Solar, you need to know its strengths and its weaknesses. One of the biggest strengths of the Solar subclass is that you have, I mean, it's strong in almost every aspect. You have incredible ad clear, you got burst damage with ignitions, you have damage over time with Scorch, and then with the Restoration ×2 and Cure, you have incredible survivability. The biggest weakness of the Solar subclass is that you are dependent on killing ads. And if it's just you and a boss, you will not be extending any of these things. You will have your damage over time and some burst damage. Your survivability will be lacking. You will not be extending any of these things. So when we look at the Solar subclass, like I was saying with Heat Rises, when you consume your grenade, you gain Heat Rises. It cures yourself and nearby allies, so it's a great thing of burst healing. And then with Phoenix Dive, you get Restoration ×2 and you Scorch on landing. So with Incinerator Snap, when you get that close range snap, you guarantee that ignition right there. And if you weren't going to get that ignition, this is why you dive with Heat Rises. We come over here, maybe it's a little bit further away, dive, adds that extra Scorch. Another thing with Ember of Empyrean, so we can see kind of the loop that we're doing here. So it extends your Restoration and Radiant, and this makes you Radiant, and this gives you more Scorch. So your Restoration ×2 goes away pretty quickly. You see, as soon as I land, it goes away in 3 seconds. So what we can do is when the enemies are all grouped up, let's change them to something that for sure. Actually, no, these might group up. We're gonna have them start shooting us. They're all grouped up. Snap, dive, and now look at the Restoration, 15 seconds. As we get kills, it goes back up to 15 seconds. So that is the loop. And now that you've got your Restoration going, as long as you can just keep extending it with Solar kills. So now that we've got our build done all the way down to the bottom, we need to finalize and round out any corners for our build to make sure it's usable in all content. So this will be usable in all solo content. First thing we need to look at are any champions. Then we need to find our exotic weapon because we didn't base the build around an exotic weapon. Then we got to throw our armor mods on. So when it comes to our anti-champion weapons, if we look at our artifact, we've got Unstoppables covered with our hand cannons. And then we have Radiant from our melees and getting multiple precision Radiant or Solar hits. So we've got a Radiant weapon. And a note with Radiant weapons, if you have, like we have Unstoppable Hand Cannon on right now, if we were to have Radiant, our hand cannons will not be able to pierce shields. So we need a weapon not on this list to be our Radiant anti-barrier weapon. The first thing we're going to look at when dealing with Overload champions, if our kinetic slot is open, Chill Clip is the strongest anti-overload perk in the game. Like if you have your kinetic slot free, just throw a Chill Clip weapon on. While you're at or above 50% of the base magazine capacity, direct hits apply slow stacks. So any Chill Clip weapon you want, I've got a few in my inventory. I've got the Tenacious Mastery, which we'll be using with absolutely cracked ammo regen. The new Lionfish 4FR fusion rifle has Chill Clip on it. Classic Riptide from Crucible had it. If you had a Rake Angle, Rake Angle's got it. There are the Sniper from Salvation's Edge has it. There's a lot of Chill Clip weapons. They're all fantastic. Any Chill Clip weapon of your choice, I'm going to use Tenacious Mastery for this. So lastly, we just need a Solar Exotic Heavy weapon. And the first thing that comes to mind is Jug, which means just use Gjallarhorn. I might have spelled Gjallarhorn wrong. If you're on Solar and you do not know what weapon to use and your heavy slot is open, just throw on Gjallarhorn. Gjallarhorn absolutely chunks everything. It does incredible boss damage. It does incredible add clear damage. Like, if I stun this champion right here, shoot a Gjallarhorn at it, almost kills it in one shot. 2 shots guaranteed kills it. Like, it is absolutely insane how good Gjallarhorn is. Like I said with the thing earlier, use your grenade to proc Hikarise's snap dive. If your restoration is getting low, we'll just kind of wait it out. See, our restoration is at 5 seconds now, and you're like, oh my gosh, it's running out, and you can't get a hand cannon kill. Shoot some Gjallarhorn. Shoot some Gjallarhorn into a crowd of enemies. Or you don't even have to do the snap dive. If we throw some acolytes out there and make them all start shooting us, let's get a fresh rally going, make sure our restoration runs out. We can literally shoot the Gjallarhorn and dive. Look, our restoration is at 15 seconds. Like, Gjallarhorn does everything. And it will pierce the barriers. Can we spawn? Is it all going to be on steps? Let's get this guy to put his shield up. As long as we have Radiant. Wherever he wants to throw a shield up. Absolutely nukes them. Like, if you have the ability to run Gjallarhorn on a Solar subclass, it is my go-to exotic. It does everything very well. So we've got our build content, we've got our artifact, our build course done, subclass, and we finalize it. So we've got a build that can do all solo ops. It has high survivability, high damage, can do boss damage, can do add clear, and it's got all champions covered with like little to no hassle. Here is a look at the build. When it comes to the artifact, this is what I have picked out. So I put on all the primary weapons. You could use for your overloads, you could use a shotgun, but nah. Flame, Fiber, and Freeze, and Scavengers. So these are just nice to have because we're not going to do anything with this. Rapid Precision kills or Solar kills will get you Radiant. That's just free. We did these two things at the bottom because they deal with fire sprites. So this is just extra ability energy and extra fire sprites. Since we have a rocket sidearm on, I've got reciprocal draw on. If I didn't have this and I was playing with a team, I would put shoulder to shoulder on. Or you could use Elemental Daze for stunning champions. Cauterized Darkness is free because we've got our Chill Clip weapon, so you can pop a champion with Chill Clip and then just throw or shoot it with Solar stuff. And then Shield Crush, because we're amplified all the times, our grenades are going to recharge faster and deal more damage. And then sometimes Radiant Shrapnel hasn't really stolen precision kills from me, so I think it's free. But if you don't like that, you could also just put on Elemental Overdrive to beef up your weapons. But I think Radiant Shrapnel is absolutely free and will not hinder your artifact in any ways. So this is what I've been running. So now that you've seen the build, we've got Song of Flame on because it's the strongest solar super in the game. Daybreak is fun, it is strong, it is not optimal, but I love Daybreak. Will of Radiance in a raid or a dungeon, but we're not doing that. We're doing some solo ops, so use Song of Flame. That is just too strong not to use. You have to use Phoenix Dive, your jump of choice. Just a quick thing to note, weird thing about Heat Rises, so a lot of Burst Glide fans, when you do your little, how you can burst forward, but when you Heat Rises, it goes away. Now you're on Strafe Glide. If you use Strafe Glide with Heat Rises, now when you do your, now you get your burst. It swaps your glides. It is weird. I like to use Strafe Glide with it because you can do your bursts and then you have like more maneuverability because you have Heat Rises. So you can just stay in the air for a lot longer and correct your mistakes. So if you ever thought Heat Rises felt weird, that's why. Incinerator Snap, Celestial Fire is just, unless you're really, really, really trying not to get close to things, like Incinerator Snap is just so good. One of the strongest melees in the game. And then obviously we need Fusion Grenades. For aspects, we need Heat Rises, for the extra heals, and for the extra melee damage in the air, and for the Restoration ×2. And then you need Touch of Flame because it makes your Fusion Grenade explode twice. For our fragments, the trifecta, like I said before, so Ember of Empyrean to extend Restoration and Radiant, Ember of Torches to give yourself Radiant, and Ember of Ashes to do more Scorch. Your last one is up to you. I have been running Ember of Searing. Defeating Scorch targets grant melee energy and creates a fire sprite because there's a lot of subclass pickup, like fire sprites or void breaches. There's a lot of those in the artifact, so I just thought an easier way to create fire sprites and even more melee energy. Like, you don't need to invest. I have 39 melee and I get it back pretty soon because I get more melee from defeating Scorch targets and from Heat Rises. So they kind of double up on each other. We've got our weapons here. I've got a Tenacious Mastery with Air Trigger and Chill Clip, and a Zali's Bane with Explosive Payload, Incandescent, and Galahorn. For my armor mods, starting from the top, any armor set bonuses you want, preferably the raid armor. If you can get 4 pieces to even further extend your Radiant and Restoration, that is really nice. Otherwise, if you're using we're using rockets and we're using rocket weapons. So final blows with any rocket or grenade launcher temporarily decrease incoming area effect damage. This is the armor bonus from doing the Mythic campaign on Kepler, and it works with rocket sidearms. So if we run a combatant wave right now, if I shoot myself with Galahorn, instantly kills me. Now if I get a rocket sidearm, just a single rocket sidearm kill, you can see that timer on the left with no text because this game lost its quality assurance. Now if I shoot Galahorn at my feet, half damage, if even. It is a pretty big splash damage negator. So that is a very good armor set. Starting from the helmet, we've also got gunner armor, grenadier, gunner, and gunner. In the helmet, we need a siphon to generate orbs because orbs are OP. We're using the thermodynamic siphon because we're also using a stasis weapon. Otherwise, I would just use a harmonic and just get solar kills. And then we have 2 heavy ammo finders because Galahorn is so strong, we want as much of it as possible. For our arms, we want melee energy. We want ability energy, really. Our class comes back relatively quickly. Don't have to worry about that. So melee give grenade, grenade give melee. I did it backwards because the symbols kind of messed me up. And then this last one here, I threw a firepower in just for extra orbs. You don't have to do it. Like Zali's Bane takes forever to reload. You could throw a harmonic loader on instead. Or you could throw for snaps. You could put on a heavy-handed. I just think an extra orb whenever you throw out your grenade feels nice. For your chest piece, always use resist mods. Never use any of these harmonic or aims or ammo gens. Sometimes you can use a loosened blade, but like never use it. You don't need a charged up. You don't need emergency reinforcements or anything like that. Usually, like if you don't know what to put, just put these 3 on. If you do know the content you're doing and you're like, oh, there's no solar damage in this encounter, throw like an arc, a void, and a concussive on. Like this is always great to do. I would kind of like sniper sometimes, melee sometimes, almost always concussive. Like if you know the exact damage types you're going to take, just 1, 2 concussive. It is absolutely free. For the legs, we want to do more solar damage, so 2 solar surges, and then as much Gallahorn ammo as we can get, so harmonic scavenger. We don't need any other orb pickups. You could replace one of these with like an absolution, but we don't necessarily need that. You don't need a recuperation. You don't need a better already, because we have cure and restoration almost always on demand, so you do not need those. And then for the bond, since we're doing a lot of diving, distribution and a bomber, because this is a grenade focused build, so all of our abilities and a bomber, and then a time dilation to make our surges last longer. So that's the build in a nutshell. Now I'm going to run into a K1 logistics and run through it. I'm getting kind of close to the end of master content and going towards grandmaster, so I've got to put a lot of stuff on. Now that we're loaded in, we'll see what our bonus objective is. We just need to defeat combatants. So it didn't really come into play here. So I like to start with heat rises so we can burst around faster. And then Gallahorn, dive, restoration times 2 is going. Kill these servitors, open these up. I like this because even though you got to deactivate these barriers, there's a lot of free ammo. Another fun thing about K1 logistics is that you will never find an overload or anything else, or an unstop. At least I've never seen them. Maybe they appear on Grandmaster. So if you want to run the rocket pulse, especially when it's hive, there's like these little gunk things, so they change every day, and you can destroy the gunk things with 1 hit of your rocket pulse. So you can just kind of like zoom around the map, taking out everything. So I kind of messed up, didn't have my radiant. It's fine. Get a radiant here. See how my health is getting low? Consume grenade. Easy. Cure times 2. And do it again. Is free healing. It also heals your teammates. So if you see your teammates getting low and you don't have a Phoenix dive up, you can just consume your grenade. Also, if you're playing with teammates, I didn't show it. I would use Ember of Benevolence. It is just super strong. You get like 3 times ability regens when you apply radiant or healing or anything to your teammates. You can just skip the brig. Especially if you're using like Speaker's Sight. But even on this build, like you're applying radiant or you consume your grenade to cure your allies. Even if you like put a rift down, your allies step into the rift, they get a bonus from it. So Ember of Benevolence is pretty strong. Just need more kills, so we're going to make sure that we kill these guys. Consume the grenade, get heat rises, see a bunch of enemies we can kill, shoot a Gallahorn, dive. I don't think it killed like 2 guys. A lot of playing solar is killing ads and then using your abilities to damage other targets while you go do other things. So there's a lot of snap the orange bar, throw a grenade at the orange bar, kill the red bars to be able to do more stuff. So like when you're fighting bosses, especially on like Sunbracers, you want to, like if you're using Sunbracers, you want to throw a majority of your grenades on high health targets, and then you look at the low health targets as basically fodder for you to use your snap and get more stuff. The nice thing about Gallahorn is that it has a little bit of tracking built into it. It's not perfect. It's got some tracking built into it. Don't know how I missed that one. Now that enemies are spawning, we are going to consume our grenade. No snap, but we can start with a dive. You just see like how much I had, like 100 weapon stat, 100 something and just how much Galahorn ammo I'm getting. Like, I just am shooting this thing nonstop, and I just keep getting ammo. I'd use my super, but there's this weird thing where the game doesn't want you... Like, sometimes when you pick up an item, it takes you out of your super. So when you're in Song of Flame, it just straight up doesn't let you pick up what these servitors drop. Throw the relic at him. And you can see this, the strength of Song of Flame. Just a couple snaps are going to kill this guy. And that's done. That's the build. I hope you liked it. Thanks for watching.